Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, my good friend Jim Stam. How you doing, brother?
Doing all right, man. Listen, Gary, dude, we got 16 games left, and this bad boy is going to be in the books, dude. Like, what happened? Where did this season go?
I know. And hey, they're 70 and 76. Pirates need to win 7 of their final 16 to better last season's record. Ben Charrington says he sees signs of improvement. He just came out and gave Shelty a good old pat on the back vote of confidence, right? That whole, we expect him to return. You know, I remember Clint Hurdle got that.
Fully expect.
Fully, and it might be foolish if he believes it. But, well, Clint Hurdle got the same thing. You know, back in 2019 before Bob fired him, you know, and ultimately I think that's where it would come from, is Bob, you know. So if he's going to get fired, I think that it was going to at least come from pressure from Bob, right? I'm not sure this changes anything. I'm not even sure what else you would say unless you planned on parting ways with him in the season, because to say anything short of you expect him to return is to say he's going to be out on his can.
It's like listening to Tomlin talk about quarterbacks, I think, right?
Right.
You know, like they're only going to say what's necessary to get by for the moment. And what's in the moment is kind of obvious that he's still here. The season's not over. They're not getting rid of him at this late in the season. So he's just going to say whatever he can do to get by. I don't think it means anything. Does that mean like I'm secretly suspecting he's going to be fired? No, I just don't think it means anything right now.
Yeah, I think basically what I'm thinking is that's the response you would have gotten no matter what's going to happen. I don't know, man. This is like one of those ones where someone walks up and goes, Bigfoot's not real. And you're like, yeah, I know Bigfoot's not real. And then someone shows you like, but what about this footprint they found up in the Yucatan? And you're like, well, I don't know, Bigfoot might be real. You know, I think it just makes you think, you know, and I think that's kind of what most of this stuff is. It's stuff you expect to get said. I didn't think much of it. I personally don't think the GM's in any real trouble either, but you know, we'll see. I don't want to make this whole show about it. I just kind of want to be like, what signs of improvement do you think he's seen? Because I do think topping last year's record should be doable. I think we should expect them to be able to pull off 7 out of their last 16. I know they got some tough teams and everything, but I haven't entered a series all season that I didn't expect they should be able to win 2 of 3.
Yeah, it's interesting because I took a quick look at the schedule the rest of the way. You got 5 series left. Only one's not against a team with the winning record. So they should be challenged down the stretch. I mean, these games for the Royals I think they're still important. The Yankees could actually be in some very, them and Baltimore are right. You know, they're dancing every day. So, the Brewers, you know, they're on the schedule still, and well, the Cardinals. I mean, you know, we think they're a little fraudulent, but they still have a winning record, and they're going to want to finish they're going to want to finish the season strongly too. So we'll see. I think it's important though, because you know,
I don't think you can. I don't think there's a way to sell this without beating that record in some way, shape, or form. It's not enough. Don't get me wrong. Like if they somehow like have a 78 win season and it's a 2-game improvement over last year, it's not like that should placate anyone. To me, 500 should have been bare minimum, right? I just don't see them winning 12 games here like, out of this last 16. So like I'm not going to pretend that's a requirement for my happiness.
No, I think if you look at like, and I'm going right now, I just want to double check something here. Let's see. So if they go 8-8, yeah, okay. Like 10-6 would be a really nice way to finish the season.
Yeah, I mean, if you can pull something like that off and get yourself a nice 4 or 5 game improvement, you at least feel a little bit better. You know,
Mhm.
I think they were dealt some things that you probably didn't expect. Jack Sawinski's chief among them for me. I don't think there's anybody that on that team or even surrounding this team that, including people that didn't think that kid's a starter, that thought he wasn't going to pop 15, 20 home runs for you, right?
Right.
I think everybody thought that was going to be a thing. And I think everybody expected to get something out of Henry Davis. So there's a couple right there. And then you get like, I don't think anybody expected Jarrett Jones. And if you expected what you're getting out of Paul Skeens, God bless you. I hope you don't ever expect it again because I don't think you'll ever see it again.
Yeah, even going back to before the year started, we were talking about these things. I expected Paul Skeens to be ready really, really soon out of the gate. I didn't even expect this. Like, this has been special, right? And aside from Jarrett Jones missing some time with injury, he's been pretty good too. I mean, so those have been two huge benefits and uh, bonuses that I don't think anybody should have been counting on at all.
Yeah. So there's definitely always twists and turns in every season. You don't get everything you expect. I think Rowdy Tellez is a weird one right there. Like, I think you got about half the power production out of him that you thought you wanted, or thought you might get.
Yeah.
And I'd say twice the glove that I had advertised to me anyway. I thought he was much better at first base than I had ever seen.
Yeah, I think Rowdy's going to be an interesting conversation for us in the offseason, right? We're going to have to designate a whole segment to him because it's confusing to look at with him. Like there's been some good, there's been some really bad for long stretches. So yeah, that's one we're going to have to take a long look at. I think let's get to the end and then we'll take a step back and look at it.
Right. I mean, bottom line, I guess I don't want to pay too much lip service to Ben Charrington's end of season comments because I just don't think they change anything, and I don't think they would be very forthcoming with anything if they had it planned.
Yeah, and I would caution people, anybody that's expecting like full house wholesale changes. I would tell you you're setting yourself up for disappointment there. I mean, don't you think, Gary? Like,
yeah. I think so. I think so for sure. And like, I mean, if it's a requirement for you that like whatever 65% of everybody get fired or 75%, I mean, I'll see you next year. I know you'll just get past it. Like, I understand it's the end of the world.
begrudgingly,
right now,
but
you'll be
live.
back just like we will. But let's take a quick break. Come back. Let's talk about something pretty positive. Andrew McCutchen set another little milestone here, hitting his 20th home run of the season, and I thought it appropriate for Jim and I to start a little project with you.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. We're going to keep this one really nice and tidy this week, Jim. In fact, I'm going to just go ahead and push something cool off to next week to keep this tidy. what we're going to do here is we're going to go through some cool milestones that Andrew McCutchen has already set, where he is with the team in relation to other Pirates. We're going to kind of start laying out the case for, is Andrew McCutchen a Hall of Famer on this episode? We're not going to answer it. We're just going to start laying out a case for it, putting out some facts, talking through it a little bit. And then Jim's going to put up one of his polls, and it's going to be simple. Is he or isn't he? And then next week, we'll come back with a little bit more of an argument in relation to other players that are in and start making a real case for whether he's got a real shot at it. Or maybe he really needs the padding of next year to get there.
Yeah, like what's interesting about this is like if you go and you start looking and you start doing like comps and things like that, it's an interesting look because I do think like some players are viewed differently because of certain things. You know, right out the gate, Andrew McCutchen has the benefit of being likable, not attached to any kinds of controversy, no steroids. And then that starts getting involved too when you look at some of the guys that aren't even in. So, you know, it's interesting. We're gonna talk about it today. Like you said, I'll put the poll out. Do your own research on this too, and try to keep your black and gold Pirates glasses off when you do it, because you want to try to be realistic about it. And if you can make a good case, great. If you don't think he belongs in, that's great too. We'll talk about it next week.
That's true. And like he's an almost 50 WAR player. I feel like that's a milestone. A lot of people think that's kind of like the bare minimum threshold for a Hall of Fame player. You kind of have to amass that in your career. Some say it's more, like we discussed beforehand. Some think it's upwards of 60. But right now he's at 50. And today I want to talk about his totals as a Pirate alongside his career totals, because in his case, his place in this team's history is almost just as cool as his case for the Hall of Fame in general. So I've always seen his chances at the Hall of Fame slim. So I've always kind of looked at him through this prism in the first place. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm starting to teeter a little bit, Jim. That's why I want to do this exercise. The higher his numbers go, the more I think,
Well, and the thing is too, like, every bit really starts to matter at the end. So the thing with Kutch is, you know, he has obviously said he wants to be back. I actually think if the Pirates were not to ask him back, which I don't expect to happen, I fully expect him to be back here, that I think he would go play somewhere else. I
think he could for sure. 20 home runs.
Yeah, I think he'll have a spot somewhere. I think there's a couple factors. I think he still enjoys the game. I think he still loves the game. And I think he's aware of where he is, maybe kind of on the spectrum of some of this stuff. And hey, if you can play a couple more years, and now that's asking a lot at his age, right?
Yeah.
But if you can keep kind of, you know, piling up some of these numbers, it starts to help. So that's a big component to it too. We're talking about him right now. A couple more years could change the discussion a little bit.
All right, so let's start a little bit. Home runs. Mm-hmm. On his career, 319. As a Bucko, 235. That's fourth place. 5 from tying Roberto Clemente. And Jim, you know, we just recently heard Kutch lament a little bit not having all of his career with the Bucks. You know, so passing guys like Clemente on any list has to be important for someone who clearly is seeing his career like a slideshow at this point a little bit.
Definitely. It's really cool that he's in a Pirates uniform coming up on Clemente's number, right? Like, you know, anything you touch Clemente in is special. And to be able to do that, boy, I hope that's a home game when that happens, assuming he's back, because that's going to be a really cool a really cool moment. To me, it's almost cooler than the 300 mark.
Yeah, the 300 mark is cool. I don't think that's a defining point for the Hall of Fame. I think we're going to find it's hard to find the comps for that.
Not anymore, especially. I think
Yeah,
at
right.
one point, 300 seemed like a much bigger number. But with the way the game has exploded in home runs the last 20 years,
Right.
300 is just kind of like, you could hit some homers.
But that's next week's homework. Let's stick with the
Yeah.
project because
All right.
we got to be tidy today.
Okay.
How about RBIs? Old stat that people like to minimize, but I still say when you're in the thick of it a lot, it kind of matters, right? I mean, like if you're driving in a lot of runs, that means you're usually in the thick of it. You usually got your nose dirty in the action. You're making things happen. So so here goes for his career: 1,095 RBIs. As a Bucko, 818, 17 better than Ralph Kiner, 35 fewer than Hall of Famer Bill Mazeroski. You know he wants that one.
Sure. It surprises me looking at it that Kutch never had 100 RBI season. So that surprised me a little bit.
I mean, he got leadoff for the Pirates for quite a while there, too, at the beginning of his career.
Yeah. So, but that's another just a minor thing that surprised me when I looked at it. Hey, driving in runs is still important to ball players. I know fans like to minimize it.
Doug's doing some homework for next week right now. Since 1956, 44% of players who have one MVP, 44% have reached the Hall of Fame.
Interesting.
Yeah, that'll be nice to add to the case next week. How about doubles, Jim? First career 427, as a Pirate 327, and he'd need 44 more, which is shall we say unlikely to catch Mr. Pie Trainer. I don't see that happening even if he plays 2 more seasons. How about you?
Yeah, Gary, let me look. I want to see how many did he have this year. He has 16 this year.
Yeah, that'd be rough. That'd be a tough order for even 2 seasons, I'd say.
Yeah. But that's, hey, 400 to 500 doubles in a career. 500 is a really special mark, I think, still for players.
Yeah.
So
that would take some doing.
Well, yeah, but again, we're talking about where does he sit, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
All right, here's a weird one, Jim, but I'm going to do it because I think it's relevant when we start talking about some of these things.
Let's get weird.
At bats. Here's why.
All right.
Because when we talk about where he's coming up on some of these lists, I think it shows how remarkable it is he is where he's at. For his career, 7,832. And remember, everyone, at bats aren't the same as plate appearances. Okay, he's had 9,111 of those.
Right.
As a Pirate, 5,830. That is 10th all time, and 3,624 fewer than Roberto Clemente, who has the team lead, which blew me away. I thought Honus Wagner would have that by a landslide.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would have never guessed that.
But even so, like, we talk about how close he is to like tying Clemente on any list, and he's got 3,600 fewer at bats than him as a Pirate. That's pretty crazy.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. You know what, I'm sitting here, it makes me wistful, if you will, Gary, is looking at this where he had that little stretch. And then it ended up being 1, 2, 3, 4, essentially 5 years away from the Pirates.
Yep.
Like I understand about the trade, and it ended up being, Brian Reynolds is here because of that. But boy, wouldn't this be a way cooler conversation to be having, and what would his numbers look like all time for the Pirates?
Well, Kutch certainly thinks so. I mean, but like, yeah. I just think like there's a different case to be made for how significant he is to the Pirates. It's been a
Mhm.
long time since they've had one. So that's why I'm trying to do both numbers side by side. Plus, I think
Yeah.
they're more interesting. I just don't think that he's very remarkable as far as overall where he ranks on any major league list, for most things, So
Sure. Right.
let's do runs. 1,237 in his career. As a Pirate, 933. That's 11th all time. Could potentially pass Arky Vaughn at 936 as early as this year. Arky Vaughn, most of you don't hear about unless you're joking about old timey stuff. But that's crazy long time ago.
So 930. What is 936 then? If he has, you're saying Kutch has 12 over 1,200 runs scored, right?
As a Pirate, 933.
933. Okay, gotcha.
11th all time. Arky is in 10th.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. Slugging percentage. This one can still slide for some players, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Career 463. As a Bucko, he's currently at 477. So he's been a better Pirate than he's been anything else, if you look at it that way, as far as slugging goes. Tied with Bill Robinson and Richie Zisk. Right on the heels of Bobby Bonilla. This one is cool because Kutch has become more of a slug-seeking hitter in his later years, so he could gain some ground here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that surprises me a little bit that his slugging, it's pretty consistent though. In and out of the Pirates. So I would have guessed that maybe that would have been a little bit higher overall with the Pirates, just because that's where he's had some of his better seasons. Like his stud seasons, that is.
Right. How about we do what would a podcast be without OPS, right?
Sure.
Gotta do OPS.
We've already mentioned WAR, so gotta go OPS.
Well, I'm not gonna do OPS plus, so there you go.
All right.
For his career, 831. Very nice. As a Pirate, 853.
Yeah.
Which is right above Dave Parker at 847. And just behind Honus Wagner at 863. There you go. Take a stab at the Pirates' all-time leader in OPS, Jim.
The way you phrase that makes me know that it's somebody that's not who's going to be obvious. So that's why I'm.
It just means give it a try.
Well, then I'll just go with something simple as Willie Stargell.
And it would be Brian Giles, as 412 Double Play Podcast chimes in here with 1.017.
Wow. The forgotten Pirate, almost. At least he is to me. Wow. Yeah,
he was torrid here, man. He really was. He was torrid. So, whew. And let's see. Josh Klein wants us to name some realistic possibilities for free agents. Can we get into the offseason first? I mean, we got some cool in-season stuff to take care of first, bro. We'll get to it.
Josh, trust me. We're going to have plenty of time, and we will dive into it. But let's keep it happy with Kutch right now.
That's what I got on Kutch for right now. That's my list of some accomplishments and stats that he's done here in Pittsburgh and for his career. Pretty impressive. Next week, like I said, I want to take a look at how we think he stacks up against some other Hall of Fame players. See if we think we can make a case. In the meantime, you guys vote. Tell us any information you think we need to include in our investigation next week. Do that right underneath the poll, and we'll definitely talk about as many of those as we can. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, like I said, the more you dive into the topic, the more interesting it gets. And, if you got good comps, throw them out there. I love the comp stuff because, we all have in our mind what we think Hall of Fame players are, and guys that maybe you don't think are. And so those comparisons to me are really, really interesting. Even the
Yeah.
Dave Parker thing surprised me there too, Gary. Good stuff.
I definitely want to get into that more. That'll be a lot of fun. Let's take another quick break, come back and call your shot, because it's going to get us talking about something interesting.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
All right, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. On a Pirates off day, it's kind of nice to have these come up on an off day, because we don't have to kind of be thinking about what's going to happen that night as much,
Yeah, we don't have to be careful about what we're saying as much, because we have a day to let things sit for a while.
Yeah, and you know what? Before we go into call your shot, I'm feeling super positive right now. So, real quick. O'Neal Cruz has kind of surprised in center field. I think he's been pretty good.
Yeah, dude.
He's actually I think the way that his speed operates, I think it's better in the outfield than it serves him at shortstop. His straight line speed is more important, I think, than his quick twitch that I think you need at shortstop. I think it plays more to his advantage. It's made some balls look awful easy. The StatCast numbers are showing balls that have 43% probability, which it shouldn't be a big deal for a major league player to make that catch most of the time. But he's really making it look like it was a pop fly. So I've been pretty impressed by him, honestly.
Yeah. Let's just look at something really basic, right? When you watch him out there, is we saw Henry and Wright, and it was tough when the ball was coming off the bat for Henry to read it correctly, and sometimes you get used to that and get better at it and whatever, but some guys just don't ever really get that good instinctive jump off the baseball and read it correctly. And that's the thing that I think has surprised me with Cruz is yes, his speed would make up for a lot of things if he was not doing that, but he's actually reading things off the bat really well. So that surprised me a little.
It's not just about speed either, because Ji-hwan Bae is just as fast. And Ji-hwan Bae never adjusted to the routes the way it looks like O'Neal has. I mean, he's beelining it for things that, you don't see that circuitous route that you see from some people. I haven't seen the athleticism make up for a mental mistake yet. That's what I'm saying. That's probably what's impressed me the most. Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, right? Is he hasn't even had to resort to just his speed and athleticism, bailing him out. When you watch Ji-hwan Bae, it's it's kind of a fiasco, even when he does make the catch, right? And he gets bailed out because he can make up for it usually. But Gary, I will say this, when it happened at this time of the season, I was questioning her and whatnot, just because I thought that maybe it's not a great idea to be doing it like this so suddenly. But the more I've watched him, the more I've thought about it. I will say that I'm going to give him credit for doing this when they did it now, because it's giving him, and he looks like he's enjoying it. I think he's actually buying into it and thinking, you know what, this could be pretty fun out here. I could be pretty good at this. And I think you do see a buy-in. So I'm glad they went ahead and just did it when they did it. Maybe they should have done it sooner.
Maybe, but I mean, it's working out right now. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying watching it. It hasn't slowed down the bat, man. The dude's hitting, and And he's hitting lefties, he's hitting righties, he's hitting everything. In
Yeah.
fact, I really think, regardless of whether Derek Shelton's on his way out or not, please stop moving him down in the lineup, like against lefties. Just leave him at number 3. Leave him just buried there with Reynolds. I think it's making the offense suffer when it doesn't need to. Just leave those two pinned together. Let them protect each other a little bit. Like,
Yeah, he has strung enough good at bats now against lefties. I'm really fascinated by it because you just really don't see a guy struggle as badly as he was doing against left-handed pitching, and then all of a sudden he's crushing it. So I would
think
love
he
to know
really
a little bit
changed his
more.
philosophy on his swings, man. Like, he's not swinging out of his shoes at him anymore. And we've seen the home runs drop off because of that, but he's making more contact. He's getting the balls because he's given himself a chance to get to the balls instead of trying to hit everything in the river. He's just hitting line drives.
Right. Well, he's a guy that can hit 20.
Flick them.
I was just gonna say he's a guy that can hit 20 home runs by accident.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like, it's really not a bad approach overall for him. I think he's going to get his anyway.
I think the home runs will come. I think he could try to be an exclusive home run hitter if he wanted to, and probably hit 40, maybe 50.
Yes.
But if he wants to be a well-rounded hitter that can handle both sides of the plate and get on base a lot and steal bases like he has been recently too, like, don't miss that. He's only been caught twice this season, and he's just racking up stolen bases the last couple of weeks here, just racking them up. A single for him is as automatic a double as it is for Ellie De La Cruz at this point. That's actually going to be a fun race to watch with both of them being healthy next year, how that plays out. Because he's really starting to abuse the base paths, and it's making the offense go, which is another reason I don't want to move him out of 3 anymore.
Right. I think too, like, what we are seeing is, like, looking back on Cruz's season, maybe we should have I know we all talked about this. How long would it take him to get going and get comfortable, whatever? It probably has played out just how maybe you should have expected it to.
Well, I learned from it and have used it to form my Endy discussion points. Because I feel the exact same way. I don't want to pile the expectation of coming up here and being a difference maker on a kid that hasn't faced live pitching in a year.
Right.
And
yeah,
I want to give him room and time, and I guess you can call that defeatist if you want, but I call it just trying to have realistic expectations with them.
Sure. Well, you see guys earlier in their careers usually struggle with consistency and not having periods where they're trying to adjust to things. And those are for healthy dudes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, then you throw in like big injuries on top of it. It's probably exactly how you should look at it. And Endy isn't nearly as talented as O'Neal Cruz. So, and that's not a knock on Endy.
I mean, that we know of. I say that because it's a switch hitting kid, still very young, just packed on like 20 some pounds of muscle.
How about naturally gifted?
He certainly isn't chiseled from the same slab of marble. I'll say that. But I think, like, I have no idea what his ceiling could be yet. And I don't know where he plays, and I don't know what the difference he makes is.
He's
all I'm saying
guy.
is I'm backing off of him a little bit because he's an athlete right now. That's it.
Right. He's an exciting guy with some intrigue that is nice it's going to be nice to have him back in the conversation for them too.
For sure. So let's do Call Your Shot, man. All right, Call Your Shot is from our friend Neil Kokaiko. And as always, this segment is sponsored by our good friends over at shopyins.com. They have Yins brand merch and apparel, stuff for our show, specialty tees that are more specific to certain teams. Really cool stuff. Check it out.
Yeah. Not
And
just baseball, Gary.
for sure, Neil, follow Shop Yins and tell them you called your shot on the Pirates fan forum for a great discount offer for anything they sell there. Let's see. This question is, how can we know for next year's, let's say if they do decide to call up Thomas Harrington or Bubba Chandler and they do make the opening day rotation next year, how do we know if inning counts are a concern or not? He's asking basically because he'd like to just go in watching guys win and try to do well instead of worrying about their health. So my initial answer, Jim, I could give is stop watching baseball because
Sounds good.
you're always going to worry about pitchers' health. But I have a more complete answer. But how about you take a crack?
Well, I just, they're going to be, whether he's on the roster, I say I'm thinking of Chandler. Because let's say he does what Jared Jones does in spring training next year or something to the equivalent, and they just feel like it's time. Whether he starts on the roster from day one there or he's still in AAA, they're still managing his innings. They have to. It's not really going to change a lot about how they monitor that stuff. It's always going to be in play. It's always going to be there, especially for a young guy right out the gate.
I'll say like there's things they always look at. History. If you got injury history.
Yeah.
Or they want to see your build-up history.
Take a guy like Ashcraft, for instance.
Yeah.
He's going to be in his own little lane as far as how they're going to handle him, as opposed to a guy that, maybe hasn't had that track record or is a bigger guy that they think can handle that. But they're all going to have things outlined in a specific set course.
Sure. Like they want to see how you recover. And, sometimes like if you've only been in the system for a couple of years, they might only have like half or 2/3 of the information they really think they want on how your recovery goes before they start deciding what you're going to do. Right. Bubba he's 21, right out of high school, 111 innings last year. This is his first full season as a pitcher only. He's at 114.1. He'll probably have 2-ish more starts, Jim, maybe he'll be like 124, 125, probably where he'll wrap up. Next year, you'll see them look to let him go like 155, 160, but it's only his third year. Coming to his second as a full-time pitcher, who knows how extra careful that will make them be or what they'll do there. I don't know. Like those innings, like let's say 40 of them are in AAA, and look at our rotation. That's realistic. Mm-hmm. Let's say 40 of them are in AAA. Well, he's blowing people away. His at-bats are 3-4 pitches right now. He comes up to the bigs. Those could turn into 6-7 pitches. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at a guy that, the 40 innings up here isn't the same as 40 innings down there. So they may not adjust it quite as much.
Right. And Josh here from Bridge to Bucktober talks about, spots available in the rotation, how they want to attack that next year. And that's actually a good topic we'll have to get to at some point.
Sure.
It's like, how are they going to do all this with, we're already discussing Ortiz, Falter. You're gonna have.
We got
Chandler,
a ton to talk about with it.
Yeah. So like that's gonna play into.
I honestly think you're underrating Harrington. I think Harrington's probably better than Bubba. If you really want to know my honest opinion, I think he'll probably be more major league ready. I think he'll prove that out, even if Bubba gets the chance first.
He very well could. Yeah,
I think Harrington's stuff has less polishing needed. I think he's more of what he's going to be Bubba's got some things that I don't think are going to play real well against major league hitters. I think he's just got to fine tune a few things or learn a couple lessons, especially about his breaking pitches. There's swings he's getting that he's not going to get up here. And I worry about what that does to a player. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's a valid point. I mean, I do like Harrington.
Yeah.
So, but to the larger point is like, we have to see how this rotation is going to shake out too, like, because that's going to dictate a lot of things too. So,
yeah, and the bottom line with all of it is every case is different. Like, I just did Bubba. I could do Harrington too. He's 22. He's right out of high school. 127.1 last year, 112.1 so far this year. I think he'll come up short even matching it. So they technically won't get any stretching done of Thomas Harrington this year. If you don't want to count like bouncing through 3 levels stretching, because it kind of is, right? I mean, like,
right.
But he'll be similar to Bubba next year.
And I do think on some level, is you've mentioned this several times now, it's important, is high school arms and college arms. I do think that they, keep that in mind when they're doing things with certain players. So, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting to watch it play out. But like next year, for instance, like you I don't know if your question kind of made me feel like you think like the reins will be completely off Jared Jones and Paul Skeens next year. Well, they won't. It was just last year that the Pirates were actively trying to have or let Mitch Keller hit 200 innings. And how long has he been in the league?
Right.
Like, this game is not what it used to be. It just isn't. They are not treating the starting pitchers the same way, and no rule changes coming along to fix that anytime soon. Nor really should there. If this keeps arms healthy, then that's what it is. I mean, I just don't think they can prove that that's what it's doing. But
no, they're doing the math without really knowing what's behind it. But you take the safest route that you think it is.
Yeah,
so.
Everybody's running on Einstein's theory of pitcher health because nobody can disprove it yet. Not necessarily because it's proven.
Right, and like if you're gonna go for something obvious, that seems to be where you'd go, right? So, oh damn it, I had a good thought. Go ahead, Gary. I'll remember it soon enough.
Well, we'll bounce it to next week then. That's
all right.
But that's Call Your Shot. Make sure you check out shopyens.com. Good stuff there. Wanted to talk about a few other player situations going on, Jim. David Bednar. Kind of got like I guess they could have avoided it if they really wanted to, but it was a convenient early on in his recovery situation here save attempt the other day, and it went poorly. He ended up getting pulled out of it, and he had the boo-boo face, big time boo-boo face, put the hoodie on, huffed at the gate and everything. I really would hope that he's directing that in the right place, because he's already gotten a little more leash than I think he really should have gotten. And he should know that, really. He's gotten a lot more leash than he should have gotten.
For sure. Where else would you have what other market would this have been acceptable? And it's not here either, but I'm saying where you could even drag it out as long as they did. I did not think Bednar was upset with anybody but himself there. I think he's just disgusted with himself. He should be.
All I said is I hope he has it directed in the right place. I'm not assuming anything.
I'm just telling you, when you brought it up, it was just, for me, it was like, yeah, he knows he's been dog doo-doo. And that was a really good place to try him in that spot, I thought. And he got a little unlucky, but you know what? Sometimes you have to make your own luck too, right? So,
right. What'd you think of the whole Trevor Mace breakdown on YouTube, where with the tipping and everything? Because certainly convinced me. That said, I've watched ghost shows and thought that maybe I would go and see something myself. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just being Zach Bagans here, but
No, listen. I would love to know, like, did he see that? Did the team bring it to him? Did his dad? Whatever. But Gary, such a stark difference in what Trevor May was talking about and how he could possibly be tipping pitches with his glove placement and digging into the ball for grip and then tilting the glove on off speed to get the grip. And then the last two outings, David Bednar has that glove slapped against his chest. You can't see what's going on. He saw that video. Someone brought it to him. Why the Pirates need someone on YouTube that's a former major league pitcher to pick up on it, I don't know.
He only did it because a Pirates fan, asked him to take a look at it too.
Right. But Gary, I'm 100% convinced that after he saw that, he went about correcting it. Now, maybe it's not even like the whole story, like maybe it's not going to fix everything. But man, was that crazy to watch. Because at first I went into it and I'm like, how big of a deal could this be? Or how really important is it?
Or you slow anything down frame by frame, I can convince you Bigfoot's real. Yeah.
Right.
Man.
So, yeah, dude, it was interesting. I guess my question is don't the Pirates, don't they have 48 guys that aren't even on the roster that just sit in their little chairs in the clubhouse? Aren't they supposed to be watching all this stuff?
You know what, dude, I'm so glad you went there because it's probably the most relevant way to bring that situation up. I've never really known where to take it before. Like, if they're all sitting there, what are they doing? You're right. That is the kind of minutia I would expect them to be investigating, right?
Sure. Because they already knew things like his velocity's not down, right? They know
movement's up.
Yeah, there were some confusing things that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
I would still say his command isn't where it needs to be and has
definitely
been, but yeah,
definitely that. There is some mechanical stuff going on with him and maybe that's what they were focused on so much but boy, when you've got a guy that used to be really good and he's now not good at all, I would think you would be turning over every stone.
Yeah.
Because this is not uncommon in baseball.
No.
Guys start telling, they have tells and tips. So, yeah, what are they doing, man?
And I think you always kind of get discovered in your division first. Mm-hmm. And when did David Bednar's problems really start? In the division. That's when he really started exploding, was in the division. And I would guess they probably had seen some things on a few players because boy, did they just absolutely hammer everything they saw from everyone that entire series in Chicago.
Right. Yeah.
So I bet they've done a comprehensive review of everyone for this now.
Well, that's
it's a brand new thing in baseball. Like they just discovered it. Right now, Oscar Marin's like, "Hey, you guys heard of this COVID?"
Yeah, this should not be breaking news. But you would think, how teams go about, they self scout, right?
Yeah.
Scout. You should be doing that with all kinds of different things about self-scouting. I would hope that this would be a learning lesson for them.
Yeah, hey, I'll be honest. I'll watch every baseball game this year. I watch them all. I'll never ever notice the tipping of pitches. That's just not where I'm looking most of the time. When I'm watching baseball, I see the pitcher obviously, but I'm focusing on the plate. I don't think about that stuff. So it was really cool to see, first of all, it really was. When he first started showing it, I was like, huh? But yeah, it pretty cool stuff. Certainly involved.
I think just what's fun about that is like actually it's something new to look at when you're watching baseball games. So for me, I thought, oh, you know what? Those are cool things to pay attention to. So anyways.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about Jared Triolo. Since Brian Hayes has gone on the IL, 306 average, man. Last 15 games, getting on base at a 393 clip, slugging 510. Like, I'm not sold, but the BABIP is in actually the reverse order you'd want right now. It's like 270.
Mhm.
So, he's getting unlucky where he got lucky last year. I like what I'm seeing. The glove really, really plays, man. Really plays.
He has a really good eye. He can work counts. We know what the glove can do. We've just been begging him to hit a little bit, right? Just hit some. Like this, the sad thing is, Gary, he's actually, him and Brian Hayes are right about the same now in number of at bats on the year. Trill has been a better player. I know Hayes has got all his issues, but overall, Trill has been a better player. I don't know what that means for the future. I think it's kind of indicative of Brian Hayes that we almost forget about him now at times. It's not like so.
Well, let's move into Brian Hayes because we basically just got told that surgery is right now not on the table.
Mm-hmm.
They're working on rotational exercises and exercises that will allow him to rotate. And that's what they're starting to see, is that he can't rotate, and that's been the problem. I heard Derek Shelton say that on his radio show on The Fan this week, and I thought to myself, that's what you're starting to see. That's what we were talking about a year and a half ago. I mean, what do you mean starting to see? Was that just a slip of the tongue, or are you really just seeing it? Because on the back of our Bednar conversation, Jim,
mm-hmm.
how many things are they just not seeing?
I would have to believe that's just a very poor choice of words. Hayes' back has been a thing for,
but specifically years. That he can't rotate,
right?
And he literally said that's what we're starting to find, is that he can't rotate.
Yeah, it sounds to me like this whole exploring all these avenues as to what to do with his back should have been done a long time ago. Once they figured out that he had some chronic issue with his back, even last year, those things don't typically just go away or get better. Why weren't they being proactive with that? I'm sure they were being proactive on a organizational level to it, but now it sounds like he's gone out and gotten all kinds of opinions from everybody on renowned places that deal with back stuff. Why weren't we doing this before with him?
No idea, man. It's a quandary, the third base spot, because there's zero chance they're going out and getting a free agent to fill that spot. Just zero chance. So I'm kind of making myself get interested in Triolo because I don't know what I'm going to get out of Hayes, man. I just don't. But here's what it is. Want to talk about what you've thought so far of Cook. I know he hasn't hit real well yet. He had a good intro, but played some good defense. What do you think?
Yeah. I like him. I'm just afraid he's one of those guys that maybe isn't like an everyday player, and maybe we've got too many of those already going around. Do I think he could help? Yeah, maybe. Seems to play good defense. He's aggressive at the plate. I don't know if there's enough there where I would say like, oh, this is a guy I can see being like an everyday player.
I think it's too early to say anything. Just more, has he impressed you with anything? I think so far, he hustles. Looks like he's playing the game hard. Looks like he can handle every position they put him in.
Right.
Has a different approach at the plate, a much more aggressive approach than I think Andy Haynes would enjoy. So I don't know if that will stick around if Andy Haynes is fortunate enough to keep his job somehow.
I don't really care. I don't really care what Andy Haynes enjoys, professionally or personally, but that's just me.
And then the last one is Alika Williams. Boy, they're giving him a showcase at shortstop. They keep putting him in there. I don't know if I see the role, Jim. I just don't. I don't think this team can afford to just have a glove-only shortstop who really has zero value if you use him at second base. Unless he's a shortstop, there's not much value in that. I'm sorry. I just don't see them keeping that.
I don't. I mean, nice kid, tries hard. But you've already got Triolo, you've already got IKF. Now, Hayes will be back. We know this in whatever capacity he is. Cruz is in center now. I just feel like second base, we've now got hopefully something, there.
Yeah, Nick Gonzalez looks pretty good.
Yeah, so for me, it's a no-brainer. Hope he does well somewhere else, but I just don't see it. There's just not enough there, Gary, with the bat. He can't hit at all.
And they're working Nick York in at shortstop now. 5 games he's played there in AAA.
Yeah, right.
I'm interested to see that because the bat sure looks interesting. Sure looks interesting, man.
Yeah, now he's somebody when you talk like when I mentioned Cook, but against York, you're like, okay, well, this guy could actually be like a piece. You know what I'm saying? Where Cook, I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know if he fits in that quality of player. So York is just done nothing but rake since he's been here.
Yeah, interesting times, man. That's it. Pretty well constructed, organized show. I think we had a good time talking through some stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the Kutch conversation. It's going to be fun to come back to that next week because I'm interested to see what people come up with.
Yeah, look for the poll question and make sure you tell us categories we need to look at or comps you want us to check out. Pop that all underneath the poll. We'll make it a big central station for this topic, and next week we'll come back and we'll make the case for Andrew McCutchen for the Hall of Fame because I think he certainly is trying his best to give us another couple years of it, right?
I think he wants to do it. So are we pretty much 100% though that he's going to be back? I'm in the 90% range with that.
I'm 100%.
And he's probably earned it. So
yeah, I'm 100% regardless of who the GM is because I don't think the GM has made this decision once yet. So I don't care.
Travis Williams just learned who Kutch was like 3 days ago, so he's not involved in it either.
Well, he's really trying hard to get Phil Kessel back. So
oh God.
Well, that's where his track record's from.
Yes, I know.
At this point, let's give the show to Ben.
Let's go back.
Yeah, buddy. All right, see you, everybody.
Look for the poll.